Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life worldwide on mixlr.com, facebook.com, and youtube.com, all /Wake Up Call DT. It is my honor and my privilege to go all throughout the great state of New York to pay homage as well as show respect and appreciation for all of our teams and our coaches. So if you haven't been on the show yet, it's because we haven't connected, and we always look forward to doing that. Dave Hogan has been on the show a bunch from Chenango Forks as their head football coach. And Dave and I have got to spend a lot of time and a lot of happy time as well as inside of the dome here recently. So it is very, very important to me to give a spotlight on the Southern tier here in the great state of New York. And when we do that, to have Dave be a part of the show. So Dave, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And yeah, the last time we saw each other face to face, some really, really good things were happening. So how has life been since, as we look at the time we're speaking? The team is 4-1 and 2-0 in league play.
Things are going well. Early on, as you know, we have a younger team. We lost a lot of talented kids from last year, but those things happen. You can't, we always talk about controlling the controllables, and I believe that our team now is just starting to get that and starting to get better. And so far, hey, we're 4-1 and certainly pleased with where we're at right now.
When you look at, like you said, having a younger team and guys moving on and whatnot, who are some of those leaders that move forward from last year's championship team that you really kind of feel the weight of not having right now?
Kids that have passed on. You moved on to well, Tyler Hayes certainly comes to mind. Matt Brewster, Dubs Hawk, Xander Arnold. There are a bunch of them. Very, very strong players, very good players, and but that's happened in the past as well. And these newer guys have to step up and actually have to step up in a hurry.
And having that, when you do have a younger team and you have that leadership move on, you obviously anticipate that because you know the timing of when your seniors are going to finish up their eligibility and their time. So when you are within a season and planning out that specific season right in front of you, how much of you and how much of your brain is also working on the future?
Not a lot. You really got to stay focused in the moment. You can't really worry about the stuff in the future that much. Very little. Certainly when you step back a little bit, you think about, okay, who's going to be our quarterback next year? Who's going to, what kids will be in the running for running back or tackle, whatever. So you do kind of think about those things and try to think if like, for instance, if there's a kid that's like multi-talented, maybe we'll start working this kid a little bit more here as well, those types of things. But in the end, you really got to coach for the here and now, and it's only fair too.
And being in the here and now, being in the moment, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, as you know, it's where sports meets life. And I always talk about the fact that living in the moment is imperative. I haven't always done a great job of it. How have you learned to live in the moment when you are a leader of young men and you're always, obviously trying to be with them here right now and then anticipate things down the road? You can't help that sometimes your mind will wander a couple steps ahead. So have you always lived in the moment, or did you have to teach yourself to do that?
I personally had to teach myself to do that. It's definitely the way to go. We talk, we have so many cliches, and they are cliches because you hear them all the time, but I'm not so sure people live by them all the time. Things like, control the controllables, do the best you can every day, you get better every rep. All these things, we talk about these things all the time, and we try to live these things. So like each day, we approach practice as, you got to, it's a great day to get better. We say that a lot. Nobody works harder. And really in the end, we have this vision. We have a vision of what we want to do, but in the end, it's really about the process. It's about all these little things, like how are we going to get there? All these little things. This is what we got to do. These tiny things, and there's so many of them. But really, it's simple. It's actually simple, and if you can stay focused on those things, a lot of times that winning will take care of itself. We're trying to create, championships and stuff like that. But really in the end, you're trying to teach them to be, better people, better human beings, in the end. And again, if you're doing those right things and staying in the moment and focusing on what you have control over and all those kinds of things, good things typically happen to you.
Yeah, coming from Dave Hogan here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Chenango Forks head football coach in the Southern Tier in Binghamton, New York, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Dave, behind you, you have different posters and different things framed and whatnot. What has made the office? I know there's some of those things behind you, but maybe some of those most memorable pieces, some of them that we can see, why you chose to put those up.
Well, there's a lot more in here as well, and I'm also the athletic director. I have some girls soccer posters up. I have some wrestling All-Americans and some lacrosse All-Americans. This place, I've been here for 27 years, and I am just so very proud of so many things. And I think as the time goes on, you just appreciate more and more how great this community and how great this district has been to me. Obviously not just in football, but in all of our sports programs and stuff, and all the great people I've met. So in terms of what goes up, I don't have much room on my walls because I really have to replace it with some of the other things that I put up here. So just very proud of all that stuff.
Being the athletics director as well as the head football coach, how do you balance overseeing all of athletics and then focusing in on your program?
A lot of good help. I always say that we have the best coaches here. I say it all the time, and I truly mean it. And I think if you ask our coaches, I think they feel the same way. Especially our head varsity coaches of each programs. They're I always talk to them about you guys are the CEOs of your programs and stuff like that. I can't do it without great coaches. We can't do it without great kids. And for the most part, we have great kids. We have great families, very supportive of sports and very supportive of academics as well. So no way you could ever do it, on your own. It's tougher during the fall season for sure, but and it's certainly busier, but still something I love and I wouldn't have any other way.
I know that the only loss that you have this season, when you look at being in the moment and being with this team, the only one is to Maine-Endwell, which is very close by, and obviously Matt Gallagher, a friend of the show, on and off the air for me, as you are. What can you say about that matchup? It was an away game, a non-league game, 34-21. Obviously, Matt's done a lot of great work. You've done a lot of great work, and you've both really showcased and put a spotlight on the Southern Tier. So despite the loss, just what that game taught this team, and at the same time, maybe some words about Matt Gallagher.
Well, in terms of the game, I mean, certainly, we talk to our kids ahead of time about the game. It's a non-league game. So in the big grand scheme of things, it's not as important as our league games. And that's true. The thing is, you just hear so much, the hype about it, and both teams undefeated, both state champions last year, that it's hard to actually put that in perspective, that the game's really not that, not as big. What is always nice about it is when you're playing games, not just against Maine, but other tough teams too in our area. We have quite a few of them. You basically, it's good because if you can come out of it healthy, you're going to learn a lot of things. Your weaknesses are going to be exposed. So there's going to be a lot you can work on, to try to get better. The other thing is, I just think, I think we saw something out of our team that we hadn't seen yet in terms of stepping it up that extra notch. We talk about taking that next big step so we can grow and something to build on and things like that, because we talked about the young kids and everything. And I think that helps too, so you kind of, you have a better week of practice just going into that game. And in terms of Matt, I've got to know Matt away from football, and we've been friends for a while now, and I got a lot of respect for him. I think this is something else that tells you something about a kid is when you talk. I know a lot of the players that played for him, and you hear when you hear the kids, and this is true with some other coaches too. You hear kids talk about the good things that they got from the the program and stuff like that. You can just tell that I think that says a whole lot about a person. And as I do this more, I get to know more kids that have played for him and his program and their staff, and it just you can just tell he's a stand-up guy anyway. I mean, it says a whole lot about it, but he and I have been friends for a while now.
And, having those friendships, how do you shake hands at the beginning of the game saying, this is somebody I would grab lunch with, but for the next couple hours, game on, brother?
It's interesting. We had a long talk before the game. Our kids were warming up and stuff, so lots of different things that we're talking about and stuff. And then, of course, afterwards, you're grateful that nobody was seriously injured, and both teams. And we always say it, both teams are going to be better because of it. And and then you just kind of move on to the next game, and we'll talk more when we during clinic time and stuff like that, and kind of go to clinics together and stuff.
So, I mean, you talk about the fact that this is a non-league game. Speaking here with Dave Hogan of Chenango Forks, their head football coach and athletic director, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, spotlight on the Southern Tier in Chenango Forks inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. Having that mixture of non-league and league games, looking back on the season so far, non-league up against O'Neill and Highland Falls, and then a non-league against Windsor Central, both of those victories. And then you had a league game against Oneonta. We talked about the non-league for Maine Endwell, and then recently here went up against Susquehanna Valley. So when you have this mix of, non-league and league games, just setting that up and taking a look at it and how you feel the team has been tested at this point through 5 games.
I think, yeah, we had some challenges. Windsor, I think, is a much improved team as well. They're young. That was a challenge, and quite frankly, we told the kids it was gonna. It's not. This is a team they got some players on their team and stuff, and you always worry about that. As a side note, you worry about that with your kids. You want to make sure that they understand that we can't take anybody lightly and stuff. But that was a dogfight, and I think that kind of said a lot about us then too. Of course, the ME game was. A big game, and of course SV was undefeated as well. And I think in a lot of ways we did a lot of good things against Susquehanna Valley. Again, just working on things that we're trying to improve each week and each day and each rep and stuff like that. And I think because of that, the level of competition that we're playing, I do think that does help us. We feel as a coaching staff that our kids are certainly starting to buy into some of the things that we've been talking about, and they're starting to realize, hey, listen, we do see results if we do these types of things, and we work hard, and it becomes more important to us and things like that. So, yeah, I think our schedule has certainly helped us, at least to this point.
When you look at, like you said, having those conversations and being in some of these hard fought games, Maine Endwell being a loss, the other ones being victories. When you talk to the team and say in practice, hey, we need to do this, or hey, in film, you got to look at that, you got to watch that, and maybe it doesn't sink in right away, or maybe they don't take it as seriously. When that does click and those things happen, and you see them really say, oh, you know what, coach was right about that, the staff was right about that. Can you pinpoint a moment or two this season where there was something you were trying to drill home that you saw the moment where they finally got it? Speaking of your team.
Yeah, look, just a simple thing like firing out low. You're in a stance for a reason. You're in a 3-point stance with your hand in the dirt because we want you to fire out low. We don't want you standing up. You're not, getting an athletic position, hitting low, getting underneath the pads, those types of things. You can talk about it all you want. A lot of times that's not going to go anywhere. You have to be creative as a coach because every kid is different too. You want to try to teach every kid to be the best they can be. So I think there's things that we write on the whiteboard each week, and sometimes those things stay up there because we aren't there yet. That one we're finally improving. We're getting off the ball a little bit better, but it was because we had to try some different things because it really wasn't working. It was on there for 4 weeks in a row, and we just hadn't seen. Now we got still a long ways to go even with that, but we had to get more creative. We had to do things that we didn't normally do in the past because this is something that we know is very important. So we had to get more creative with some drills that we did. At the same time, keep writing them up on the board. At the same time, keep showing them on film what we're doing. And then we find stuff that it looks good. We want to show this is what we want it to look like. So you just want to inundate them with this stuff all the time. So they're hearing it all the time, seeing it all the time, doing different drills, and just then it's like an aha moment. So you just ask asked about that, and we finally did see that more this week than we ever have. So again, we always tell them, I said, we're happy with what we're doing, but we're far from satisfied. We got a long ways to go, and we want to continue. We want to continue to just grow.
When you have a younger team and some of that leadership finishes up their eligibility, you're successful on paper. I mean, people look at this and say, okay, 4-1 so far, right? Doing what you need to do. That one loss coming in non-league play. And like you said, it's an important game, but you want to win the league. When interiorly what you're working on, but from the exterior, you continue to show this success. How does this young team get to a place where they could vie for a sectional and a state championship? How do you keep it moving? Because I know you're a humble guy, but there's something to be said about talent moving on, and then that talent behind the talent that's moved on continues to be successful. Because from what we see from Chenango Forks year in, year out, even with guys moving forward, this team is still a force no matter what season we're looking at here.
That's a really good point. We as coaches worry about that sometimes because we, quite frankly, we didn't play well our first few games. You don't have to go any further than some of the leaders and veterans on our team. They know it. They can tell. Some of the younger ones might not know it. So you really want the kids to understand that we always say this doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen because you're a Chenango Forks football player. It's happened in the past because we've had kids that buy in and actually believe in what we're saying and actually take this serious and do all these extra things. So you do get concerned about that because even though you're 2-0 and you're 3-0, there's a lot. We're making a lot of mistakes, and we want to really correct those things. And we're not going to get them corrected unless the kids. We always say the most important thing is the kids. I mean, these are the kids that we have this year. We have to get creative. If this isn't working, we got to do some other things. But you want the kids to understand where they truly are at, and sometimes that you might not reach that. What's coach talking about? We're 3-0. What's the issue and stuff. But what's nice is you got veterans that understand and see it, and that helps a lot. We always say that, man, our leadership. If you got senior leaders that get it, a lot of times that's half the battle. And because they'll keep reinforcing what you're saying, and quite frankly, a lot of times the kids are going to listen to them far more than they're going to listen to us. So but yeah, that is definitely a challenge, making sure that we're not looking at wins and losses. And quite frankly, we don't even talk about winning it nearly as much as probably a lot of other places do. We talk about doing these right things, all these little things, and about getting better. And we could win a game by 30 points, 20 points or whatever, and still not play very well. We want to play well. That's our first and foremost. And then we always say the winning will take care of itself if you're doing all these things.
And looking at, like you said, winning will take care of it yourself. If you're doing all the things that you need to do as you look forward here, we have Chenango Forks, your team, up against Chenango Valley. And this game coming up this Friday, October 7th at 7 p.m. And it is a league game, and it's going to be on the road. Shenango Valley in an interesting position as well, as you're the athletics director and the head football coach. Brad Tom this season took over the Shenango Valley football team as the director of athletics and head football coach. What can you say about what Brad Tom has done up to this point and the unique situation that they're in with this shift to him taking over as the head coach after serving as well with the athletic director position?
Well, I haven't talked to him too much about it. He's probably swamped and just not used to what the feeling is like right now. And it's certainly early. They had a lot of turnover and stuff like that. So you talk about wins and losses, you really can't judge it that way. But be interested. I'm sure at some point we'll have a conversation later on about how things are going there. But it's changing the whole system. You got a whole new coaching staff and stuff like that. So right now, I think they're trying to. I think if I don't want to speak for him, but I'm guessing that he'd say they're just trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out what's best with the kids that they have and what kind of system they're running and all those kinds of things. So that's really all I can say right now. But I'm sure he wasn't 100% sure what it was going to be like to add that to his plate, though.
Yeah, and I do have to make a note. 2 weeks from this coming Friday, you are playing a game on my birthday on October 21st. That game at home, a league game against Newark Valley. So, I'm just going to say that maybe something special. I don't know, maybe something for the camera. Something needs to be done. Maybe blow out a candle for somebody that's getting a touchdown in the game. We got to do something on October 21st.
Okay, I'll make a note of it.
So, Coach, before I let you go, for you to have this job and year in and year out to continue to smile and to work hard and to see that positivity in your eyes, where does that? I know we've talked about it before, and we talked about it last year. When you keep coming back to it and you keep doing it, when you get up in the morning and you take your head off the pillow, what is it about being a football coach that you just can't get enough of, as much as you've had, that you're like, no, I got to do it again?
Uh, there's a lot of things. I think, I mean, my dad was a phys ed teacher, and he's around sports, and so I was around sports my entire life. I love sports. Football is my favorite sport for sure, but there's a lot of other sports I care about a great deal. But I also heard at a very young age, you figure out a way to make money doing what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, there's days I feel like I'm working, but most of the time I don't feel like I'm working. It's just a passion. And, I think to be a head football coach, or being a head coach, varsity level, you have to have that passion. Otherwise, it's going to become a grind. And right now, it's not a grind. I'm grateful every day for what I have. There's great people here. There's great families here. There's great kids here. The coaching staff I wouldn't trade for anyone. I mean, I love those guys. Those guys are, most of those guys are some of my best friends too. I mean, they're not just guys I coach with. We share a passion together. And quite frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm going to keep doing this as long as things are going well and people want me around here. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm passionate about it. If I lose that passion, then it's time to pass it on to somebody else. But right now, I'm loving it.
Well, I can tell you that I second that. I tell people, if you do what you love and love what you do, you don't feel like you're working. And there are days where I am exhausted. There are days when I've slept for 2 hours and I got the big backpack of equipment and my luggage, and I'm going through the Detroit airport, and I'm literally thinking, if at any given time I could stop and fall on the floor. But you got to keep going. So there are those moments where you're like, man, this human body is tired, right? The car's got to be oiled every few months, but to do what you love and love what you do is a beautiful thing. So important to me. And a final note here is something that you already know is the reason why I find it so important to have you and your student athletes on and people all throughout New York, is that I feel like a spotlight needs to be here, and they're not recruited enough. They're not spoken about enough. The talent is not showcased enough. What do you want to say about Chenango Forks, your team, as well as, just recruiting in general in the state of New York, and two college teams out there, whatever division 1, 2, 3, JUCO, what they should know about your area and your team? Because I think it's imperative that we continue to put the spotlight here on Central and Upstate New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. We're a close knit group, a lot of the Section 4 coaches and stuff, and very hard workers, great guys. Again, a lot of them are some of my best friends as well, and very very hard workers, very passionate. The main animals of the world, Newark Valley, Susquehanna Valley. There's so many, Tioga. There's so many of these schools around that I think the great competition in the area has made us better. It's just friendly competition, whatever, but it raises the bar, and we steal stuff from each other. I shouldn't say that, because we're all willing to share what we do. That's no big secret. And I think it's made us better. And I think our kids are better, because of it. I think they work hard. I think it seems like more of our kids are starting to get recognized. JUCO and D3 is, if you're a Division 3 athlete, and you go on and you play 4 years, then you're one heck of an athlete. I mean, that's what people just don't understand, like how challenging it is out there. And it's great. You go to a nice school, you get a 4-year degree, and you can play a sport you love. that I think has helped tremendously. And the other thing I do want to say, Dan, is I appreciate you saying what you said and doing what you're doing to help promote that. That helps a great deal, and we appreciate it a great deal.
Well, Coach, you deserve it. And there's nobody, I said this when I started my company. I said, I guess I'm choosing to be a redheaded stepchild. And in doing that, you notice the other redheaded stepchildren. What I mean by that is that there's so many places where a light hasn't been shined, and not because it shouldn't have been, and not because it's not worthy, but because it just isn't there yet. And, if I'm going to leave this world in any way, shape, or form, hopefully after being 100 something years old, it's going to be making sure that the Chenango Forks of the world have a place and have a spotlight, that your kids have somewhere to talk and something to share with their families, and that you have that as well. So, I mean, Central and Upstate New York, it's my home. The state of New York is my home, and I will do whatever I can for the kids and for the adults in this community to know that they are valued and they're important, and that their dreams are just as important as anybody else's.
Appreciate that so much. Very well said too. Thank you.
Did you make the note for October 21st?
I have it written down. Dan's
right.
birthday, October 21st. We'll come up with something.
Awesome. Well, Coach, as always, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. God bless the rest of the way. And obviously you and I will be talking soon.
Thank you. God bless you too.